And now shifting focus to South America, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has ordered the closure of his country's embassy and consulates in Ecuador. Maduro says he is cutting ties with Ecuador after the raid on the Mexican embassy in Quito. Ecuador raided the Mexican embassy to detain former Ecuadorian Vice President Jorge Glas earlier this month. Ecuador's police entered Mexico's embassy forcefully to make the arrest. Now, this is in fact a violation of international law and an infringement on Mexico's sovereignty. Quito said the former vice president was arrested while trying to evade corruption charges by seeking political asylum in Mexico. After the incident, Mexico cut all diplomatic relations with Ecuador and dragged Quito to the International Court of Justice. Now Venezuela has decided to also cut all diplomatic ties with Ecuador in solidarity with Mexico.
Frente a ese acto,
I announced that Venezuela has ordered the closure of our embassy in Ecuador and consulate in Quito, and to immediately close the consulate of Guayaquil and the immediate return of the diplomatic staff in Venezuela. We have a business manager, Professor Pedro Sassone, and from here I order to prepare everything from the closure and the comeback until the international law is re-established in Ecuador.
en Ecuador.
Now, Maduro said that he fully supports Mexico's request to have Ecuador removed from the United Nations. And the Venezuelan leader believes that Ecuador's President Noboa has not faced the true consequences for his actions against a sovereign state.
President
Daniel Noboa should have had to appear in front of the whole Latin America and the Caribbean and take responsibility in front of Ecuador, in front of Latin America, in front of the Caribbean, and in front of the world. But he hasn't faced the consequences. I can say from Venezuela, President Daniel Noboa has hidden, and the people of Ecuador must know why President Daniel Noboa hasn't faced the consequences, and he's not taking responsibility for his actions.
Meanwhile, Ecuador's President Noboa has accused Mexico of violating international treaties by granting asylum to the former Vice President Jorge Glas. Quito says that the former vice president was not a political refugee, but in fact a criminal who had been convicted of very serious crimes. Now Maduro's decision to cut ties with Quito has in fact stranded thousands of Venezuelans in Ecuador as the diplomatic war continues to escalate.
They should consider reopening soon so we can ask for our paperwork in order to be legally in here.
The uncertainty reigning over the Venezuelan population is catastrophic. First, they imposed the world's most expensive passport. Now, it's not only expensive, but we must get it in other countries as a result of this severance of diplomatic relations with Ecuador.
As more nations take action against Ecuador for violating Mexico's sovereignty, Quito is facing growing diplomatic isolation. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. The race for the White House is heating up.
We're beating Biden.
How dare he say that?
If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issues, but above all, we know the players to bring you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on First Post America.